Welcome to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, very excited. We're going to talk about a very important subject, and we have our special guest, Nicole Tanguay, owner and CEO of RVIVE Wellness. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I know it's taken a few times to coordinate because of schedules and difficult things. But to get us started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us where you were born, where you grew up, went to school, and perhaps all the way to your first job.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in Southern California, Orange County area. My parents divorced when I was 5, so grew up with a single parent. My dad raised us, and that was a little bit of a struggle because didn't have that mom around to be able to kind of lead us and guide us in the way we needed. So I really used education as like an escape. And so I always was like obsessed with school and wanting to get good grades, and, went to elementary, junior high, high school, college, all in Fullerton, graduated from Cal State Fullerton and with communications and marketing, and ended up getting a job at the Wynn. So that's kind of
here
where, in Las Vegas. So that's kind of what relocated me in my early 20s. And then I kind of stayed in that hospitality industry until I got into my car accident and went to prison. So that's kind of how that evolved.
Wow. And we're going to talk about next. I think one of the things that I really was looking forward to is, as you know, we Workforce Connections, we work with Hope for Prisoners. They staff our American job centers that are focused on the reentry population.
Sure.
And it's become more than a social imperative because now you have, another good friend of ours is Mary Beth Sewell from the Vegas Chamber, who talks about it as a business imperative because employers need employees more than ever. Mm-hmm. And this population is a population that needs a second chance. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But when John told me about you, there's very key things about your journey. But one of them had to do with how you maximize the time and how today now that ended up being a really good investment. So tell us about that. How did you maximize your time when you were serving time to earn your credentials and become the professional you are today?
Right. Yeah. So I was sentenced to 8 years in prison, and the first year was really rough. I just had to kind of survive and manage and learn what the culture was like. But then I decided, how am I going to use this time to my full potential? And so my second year of incarceration, I decided to go back to college and get my degree in sociology because I became fascinated with psychology, the mind, addiction. I did some counseling while in prison, and I also read tons of self-help books. I had all of this free time now to focus on me. And I was like, this is such a fascinating field. Counseling is actually helping me. Maybe this is something I could do.
Wow.
Is it even possible? I'm not sure. So I ended up getting approval to do school through correspondence studies. I started that at camp. And then an amazing thing happened. 4 years before I was supposed to go to transitional housing, I got called up to the administration office. It was a case manager from Casa Grande, and they said, you've been recommended to go to Casa Grande as an in-house worker 4 years early.
Wow.
And I still to this day have no idea who recommended me. I think it was one of those God moments. And it kind of just confirmed that what I'm doing was the right path. And so when I got to Casa Grande, I met with the lieutenant, told him kind of what my thoughts were about school, what I'd been doing so far. And he said, yeah, keep going. We support you in that. So I ended up getting another bachelor's degree. And then I was still 4 years left with my sentence. So I said, well, what can I do next? Could I go for a master's degree? Is that even possible? So I ended up getting approval to have one of the correctional officers actually drove me to UNLV because I was still medium custody, drove me to UNLV. I did the interview for the master's program. They accepted me. And I actually got accepted to the master's program the day we went on lockdown for COVID. And so then there was a whole nother barrier going, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Well, everybody went remote. And so I was able to do my master's degree, and this is where Hope for Prisoners really comes in. They actually started a computer lab inside of Casa Grande during COVID. And so John actually hired me as like an in-house teacher's aide.
Wow.
So not only was I getting paid to be a worker while incarcerated, I was also able to do all of my remote classes for my master's degree while on lockdown in prison.
Wow.
So it was just like an amazing, like series of events that I know that was really led by God to kind of lead me to that point. Eventually we got off lockdown. I became a community trustee, and I finished my master's in 2023, which was just a couple months before I was released.
Wow. What a story, Nicole. And I think you know now that computer lab has become a full-blown, we call them American Job Centers or Employee and Career Hub at Casa Grande. John has another one, of course, in Hope for Prisoners headquarters, but really excited about, I don't know exactly when the great public grand opening is going to be, but I took the VIP tour at Vocational Village, which houses another American Job Center. And so I'm really happy to see that we're being successful at focusing at this, initiative of really facilitating second chances, for more and more people, again, because they deserve them, but also because employers need workers. And so now, having heard that story, of course, to me, even the most interesting part is that now you started RVIVE Wellness.
Yes.
And now you help other people. So tell us about that, what it's like to have your own company and help other people.
Oh, it's so amazing because really RVIVE Wellness was born from how I helped myself while incarcerated. So I focused on not just my mental health, but my physical health, my spiritual health, like mind, body, soul, right? And that's really like the core mission of RVIVE Wellness is you can't just focus on one aspect of your health. It really is all interconnected. And so like RVIVE is really embodies that. And so when I started RVIVE Wellness, I didn't really see any other company doing something similar to that. It was always like physical health or mind body or, spiritual health, but not really all three combined. And so really like what we offer is mental health therapy, but also health and wellness coaching, spiritual guidance and direction. So also while I was incarcerated, I went to Central Church and got my ministry certificates. And so I kind of did this mental health, physical health, spiritual health. I got my personal training certifications during COVID. So I just kind of embodied what worked for me and then just said, how do I use this blueprint and replicate it for others?
And now that you're doing it, what are some of the common mental health issues, problems that you see reoccurring in people? And how do you mitigate them?
Sure. Definitely anxiety, depression, relationship issues, and trauma. Like those are the four that it's like repetitive. And really what I teach my clients is oftentimes when we have anxiety, it's a mental health issue, but what else is going on? Did you experience trauma that you haven't resolved, right? Are there coping strategies you don't know how to use? Do you know how to ground yourself, right? Depression is being stuck, right? And that could be from reliving past experiences that were negative. So depression is teaching my clients small goals towards a positive, peaceful, happy life, right? Some things they don't know how to do. It just doesn't naturally process that way. With trauma, it's just being able to be listening and letting someone process through whatever happened to them and being able to help them kind of close those chapters and be able to move forward in a healthy way. And then with relationship issues, I work with couples. So communication, conflict resolution, if they've experienced maybe adultery, teaching them how to trust each other again. And so really it's always the same type of issues. And it always comes back to, is it a mental health issue? Is it a spiritual issue? Is it a physical issue? Is it all three? And so I really dive into that during the intake process. How can we best help you for what you're here for?
And Nicole, what about from an employer's perspective? Our organization is small. It's only 24 people. But again, it's an issue that we want to make sure that we avoid burnout, that we, allow enough resources, not just time, but other resources, connectivity to services. What are some of the ways that employers can be mindful about this issue and actually help their employees, their staff, stay well when it comes to these issues?
Yeah, I think this one is a good question because mental health has often in the past been kind of a stigma. Where, individuals don't necessarily want to go to their employer and say, hey, I'm struggling with depression, anxiety. They're afraid they might lose their job. And so I think being able to have an open dialogue and feel comfortable with talking to management, talking to whoever's above them and saying, hey, this is what I'm going through. I need help, but also having, programs or things in place already so that they feel comfortable knowing if this happens, if I'm struggling with something, there's already something set in place that I know I can take advantage of, such as taking a sabbatical or being able to take mental health days, right? Like how many days per month or per year can I take, not a sick day, a mental health day, right? It should be equal to that because we all need those moments, those days where we just need to unplug and unwind.
And it's been, again, like you said, an evolution in society, at least here, in the norms of hopefully it's becoming more and more normalized and not a stigma, not a bad perception, that we can talk about it and incorporate it into workplace policies. But also, I think, as you said, it goes deeper than that. Everyday relationships, I think, need to be aware of the needs for those things. So what challenges do you find? Again, this profession is still evolving, growing, but in this mental health profession or in the field, what kind of challenges do you see for practitioners and clients?
Yeah, sure. So I think for clients, the number one thing that I see is accessibility, right? So not everyone can afford mental health therapy. And not everyone has access to mental health therapy because of maybe, their financial situation, where they're located, even people incarcerated, right? How many thousands of people there are incarcerated is versus how many counselors there are. I think one per few thousand, right? So the accessibility should be able to be available to everybody. And I wish it was, and I hope that in the future it is. But right now I see that as a huge challenge when it comes to clients. I think for practitioners, it's really being overloaded with clients because there aren't as many practitioners as there need to be per capita. And so burnout is huge in our field, not being able to balance and have good self-care, setting boundaries. As much as we teach about setting boundaries, we often spread ourselves too thin. And so it's something that we get taught in school. And I remember when I learned it, I was like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I practice self-care all the time. Well, it's much different when you're constantly pouring out into other people and then trying to balance yourself. So I think that's a huge challenge for practitioners.
Wow. And if I understood you correctly, then on the client side, it's more about the per capita accessibility. It's not that insurances today or that the benefits are not covered. That's not an issue?
Not usually. It really depends on someone's insurance. I know, Medicaid versus private health insurance offers access to mental health care, but at what capacity? Is it a group therapy once a week? Is it mental health therapy once a month? Health insurances all vary in what they offer. You might have a high deductible, right? Where somebody who makes minimum wage may never be able to meet that deductible. And so they're not going to go out and seek therapy because they know they may not be able to afford it for a year from now. And so I think that that is a piece of it, but it's also the amount of practitioners. Like I've had clients tell me, "Oh, I'm so glad I got in to see you. I've been trying to find a therapist for 2 months and have been on waiting lists," and they can afford it. So I think it's both. Yeah.
Okay. But that other one, I wasn't aware. So thanks for sharing that. Per capita issue is a big challenge. It seems like we are now looking again at our benefits here for our organization. You know, whether traditionally healthcare, vision, dental are the things, you know, that most people think about. But now, until now, we've had an employee assistance, you know, program that allows you to go get up to 8, you know, sessions one-on-one for mental health. But we're looking at, as you said, is that enough? How else can we support this very, you know, unique need that's becoming more and more intense? Because again, the pressures of life don't go away.
Right.
And they seem to get bigger and bigger. And so it's very needed. So thank you for coming to talk to us about these things. When you think about this field, is there innovations or developments that are coming out that have you excited? Like a lot of people say, you know, artificial intelligence is changing a lot of things, right?
Sure.
Are there technologies like that is innovating your field?
Yeah, definitely AI is one of them. I know it's still up and coming, but you know, as therapists, and many of us will say, like, we love doing therapy. We don't necessarily always like doing the clinical notes side or, you know, the documentation. You know, that's more of not why we got into this field. We like the relational aspect of it. So I think AI, even though it's just starting out, will eventually be able to really help us in that area because it's becoming HIPAA compliant. And so you can record sessions and they make your documentation for you, you review it, and then you're able to not spend so much time on that and spend more time, you know, communicating relationally and then being able to do research, right? Which is really important in our field as well, is like what's up and coming technology that we need to be aware of. But if I have a caseload of 40 people, then I may not have time to do my documentation, learn new technology, and do all these other things that are important, right? I think the second thing that's really cool is all the apps, right? Now, like I can have my clients have a mindfulness app and an app to track your goals and an app for your sleep cycles.
The noises, the green noise.
Exactly. And anxiety and depression and all of these things. There's an app for that now.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you see me once a week, but you really have like a pocket therapist to help you with your coping strategies and other things you might need throughout the week. So it's very helpful when they come back into session and they have that support on the outside.
That's really good. I have my daughter is a physical therapist, and she said the same things to me, that, you know, why she got into the field was because she likes that client relationship and the healing piece and the empathy piece and the but then she says, you know, I have to go do the paperwork too. And so I'm going to ask her about that, if she's starting to look into that and how maybe those other aspects of the job can be aided by technology to free you up to be even more effective or heal more people and do more research and stuff. So thanks for sharing that. So again, we talk about how that balance is important to strike, and a lot of people, we all struggle with it. We all struggle to say, what are the boundaries? What are the limits for me to have to stay in a healthy work-life balance? You know, and so you're a professional. And like you say, even you struggle. You give great advice, and so you have to be mindful to make sure that you are also doing that. Tell us a little bit about how, what things do you enjoy when you're not counseling, when you're not doing, you know, your professional stuff? How do you find those things? I know one of your recent social postings, you like to travel and you do like nature, but tell us more about how you find your healthy balance.
Sure. Yeah. So this one was one that took me some time to kind of navigate and figure out. And I kind of try to compare it to when I was incarcerated, because when you're incarcerated, you have a lot more time, right? And so I felt like I had the best balance between school and my studies. And focusing time with God. And then when I was released, I jumped right into the field of therapy. I'm helping all of these people. And then all of a sudden I realized at the end of the week, oh my goodness, like I haven't done anything for self-care, but I'm supposed to be so good at this, right? So it took me a while to navigate it. But one thing that I definitely do every morning is before I start my day, I'm not checking my phone, not checking my emails. I really just focusing on like quiet time with God. Just 15 minutes, do my devotionals, maybe read some scripture, kind of center myself. And then throughout the day, if I have time during sessions, I really like to decompress in between those sessions. Like, not every client is the same. So if I have a heavy session, I really need to like mentally recharge. And if it maybe is a 5-minute YouTube meditation or something like that, just something throughout my day, because that's really important. And then really setting boundaries is something that I have to do. So, as hard as it was in the beginning, is like not taking my clients' situations home with me, thinking about them, ruminating on it, kind of unplugging, like no cell phone, no email after a certain time. And then on my days off, just enjoying, whether it's traveling for the weekend. I like working out, kind of staying active. I think that's important. Like the RVIVE core mission, mind, body, soul, right? So I need to focus on my spiritual health every day. I need to focus on my physical health every day. And I need to focus on my mental health every day. And if I can do just small things like that, it doesn't have to be major things, then I stay pretty balanced in that area.
I like that you, like you said, small things in between your sessions, a small meditation. So it doesn't, as you say, have to be a groundbreaking thing that we implement. Start with doing small things along the way, and that will get you on route.
Exactly. Yeah. That's always what I teach my clients is it doesn't have to be these big strides. It's those small, tiny changes that at the end of the month or the end of the year, you're completely changed, right? And you're healthy and you're in a different place.
I like that. Nicole, one of the things that I enjoy the most is going to Hope for Prisoners graduations, they're so inspiring, not just because of the graduates, which are hugely inspiring, but the families, when you see the trust that they, that they have and what happens in this organization, when I see the employers there that are there to support those people they want to hire. And, it's the beginning of those second chances, right? And I always love the when they do their vivid vision.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, because the first time I heard it, you can't help to think it's too good to be true. That vivid vision is wonderful, but not even Hollywood can make that happen. But then John calls alumni that did their vivid vision 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they say, I own my mechanic shop now.
Yep.
I have this. I mean, it is happening. And so I wanted to ask you, have you lived through your vivid vision?
I'm so glad you asked me that because I was asked to share my vivid vision. And my vivid vision was exactly the story that I just shared with you, right? So earning my master's degree, getting an internship, owning my own business, becoming a therapist, a licensed therapist, and helping others. And that was exactly what I did. And John actually asked me to come back and share.
Sure.
It was a year and a half later, 18 months later. And I said, everything that I said in my vivid vision is exactly what ended up happening. Maybe not in the exact order, but it definitely came to fruition. So absolutely. I love hearing those stories too, but I'm living proof, right?
That's amazing, Nicole. First, congratulations, right? This story, again, I was really looking forward to having you here because reading it is one thing, but seeing it in the flesh is another. I can't tell you, how satisfying it is to know that there's people like you who are making, the best out of second chances and actually, inspires hopefully the business community to continue to invest in that and providing those second chances, doing business with those small businesses, hiring those graduates to be their mechanics and their HVAC technicians and all those things. So as we come to a wrap on our podcast, I wanted to give you the chance to, again, I always think about if we gain wisdom over life. They say, that youth is wasted on the young because we learn everything throughout life, and I often wonder what would I tell the 18-year-old version of myself. Not that he would listen, but
Right.
what would I tell him? So how about you? What advice would you give young men or women who might see themselves in you because they also early in their life face challenges?
Sure.
Things happen in life that you don't plan for, and that create huge barriers for the dreams that you had, the career, the dreams that you had.
Yeah.
You overcame all of that. So what would you tell a young person who says, man, it seems so hard, but they look at you and say, wow, but look at her. What would you tell them?
The first thing that comes to mind is your past does not define your future. The mistakes that you've made, or even one mistake, can change the course and alter your life permanently. But that doesn't mean that it could be a bad thing. For me, being incarcerated for 8 years definitely changed the trajectory of my life, but it also formed in me a different person who became a mental health therapist, right? I did not go into prison thinking that I was going to be a counselor. In fact, that was the farthest thing from what I was doing prior. And so I think that your past definitely doesn't define your future. And in fact, your mistakes can, be like a ground and a breaking point to be able to jump into something completely different. And you get to decide what you do with the rest of your life, right? I think that it's important to believe in yourself, believe that you have the ability to change and grow, and that it's okay to do that. And surround yourself with positive people that are rooting for you, that are supportive of you. I was fortunate that I have a very supportive family, but I was also very supported by other inmates that I was surrounded with. I was supported by the staff, the Nevada Department of Corrections, Hope for Prisoners. Like, I didn't ask for this support. I just did what I needed to do, and the support was there for me because I allowed it to come to me. And so I think that and just being able to just know that no matter what happens, everything happens the way it's supposed to. And if you firmly believe that, then you know that everything's always going to turn out and be okay in the end.
Great advice. Thanks for sharing your story. It's inspirational, and more than that, I think it's really awesome because now you're helping others change the trajectory of their life with your earned profession. And again, it's amazing that the way you did it, like John says, really maximize, the time that you were sentenced to spend behind bars. As you said, you came out a different person, not better, not worse, a different person with a different powerful trajectory, because I see still great things ahead of you.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can, stay close to you and be a witness to that. So
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you at a future one. Until then, stay safe. Okay, Nicole, well, thank you for staying over to do our bonus segment called Against the Wall. Yeah. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, the first section is called Your Favorites. I'm going to give you a category. You can be the favorite thing in that category. Let's start with an easy one. Your favorite food.
Favorite food is Mexican.
Your favorite dinner beverage.
Favorite dinner beverage is Diet Coke.
Your favorite car.
Favorite car would be a Mercedes.
Favorite musical group or artist.
Ooh. Favorite musical group or artist. I like electronic dance music, so I'd have to say Armin van Buuren.
All right. Favorite movie.
Oh, favorite movie is Amadeus.
Favorite book.
Oh my goodness. Favorite book. Oh, the Bible.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Your favorite sports team.
Favorite sports team would be the Raiders.
Awesome. Well, you made it through the first segment called Your Favorites. The next one is called Tough Choices. It gets a little harder.
Oh.
I'm going to give you two choices, and you're going to hopefully pick one.
Okay.
First one, vacations or staycations?
Vacations.
When you go to your vacation, would you rather drive there or fly there?
Fly there.
Once you get there, would you rather stay in a hotel or Airbnb?
Airbnb.
When you retire one day, Nicole, seems like a long way from now, would it be in a ranch or in the city?
In the city.
And would you rather spend a day by the ocean or hiking in the mountains?
The ocean.
If you were a superhero, would you rather have the ability to fly or breathe underwater?
Fly.
The ability to speak with animals or speak many foreign languages?
Speak many foreign languages.
Here's where it gets hard. Actions or words?
Actions.
Justice or grace?
Grace.
Awesome. You made it through the second segment called Tough Choices. The last one's called Finish the Sentence. I'm going to give you about 95% of the sentence. You're going to finish it for me. Are you ready?
Okay.
If Nicole could visit any place in the world, it would be?
Europe.
The best part about living here in Southern Nevada is?
Entertainment.
Nicole's favorite thing about her job at RVIVE Wellness is?
Helping others.
If Nicole could travel back in time, she would travel to?
25 years old.
3 words that describe Nicole are?
Caring, kind, empathetic.
Couldn't agree more. Recording the WC podcast here with us today was?
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for staying over.